On the night of our wedding anniversary, lightning tore across the capital sky. Dark clouds roiled, and a tempest raged. My good buddy, Wen Jingli, sent me a video captioned, "How'd you convince your wife, man? I'm so jealous." I figured the rascal was just messing with me, so I casually tapped it open. But the scene that played out on screen made my face turn deathly pale in an instant. In the midst of a storm, a Maybach was parked on the roadside by Songshan Park, its whole body shaking violently. As the camera slowly panned, the Maybach's license plate came into view. Instantly, I felt a sharp dagger pierce my chest, the pain so intense I couldn't breathe. That Maybach, it was actually my wife, Song Qingyu's car. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out the roar of the storm outside. I couldn't believe Song Qingyu would cheat on me. Refusing to accept it, I watched the video 3 times, over and over. Finally, I let my phone fall from a nerveless hand. Why? Why on earth? Song Qingyu, how could you do this to me? I mumbled to myself, feeling as if the violently shaking Maybach in the video had drained all the strength from my body, leaving me to collapse onto the sofa like a boneless heap. I squeezed my eyes shut in agony, my fists clenched tight. Song Qingyu and I had known each other for over 20 years. The foundation of our bond was deeper than most people could imagine. Logically, I could distrust anyone in the world, but never her. And yet, the Maybach parked by Songshan Park, its color, its license plate, everything was identical to Song Qingyu's. I started to rack my brain for any recent changes in Song Qingyu. Images of her from the past replayed in my mind, but I couldn't pinpoint anything different about her lately. To the outside world, Song Qingyu was the chairman and CEO of the Song Corporation, and also the kind of devoted wife other men envied. In my eyes, she was gentle, considerate, virtuous, and understanding. An impeccable wife, someone I valued more than my own life. My trembling hand reached for the phone again. I wanted to call her to ask what on earth was going on, but my hand holding the phone shook so violently that I powerlessly set it down again. She had once said I was her life, that she would never betray me in this lifetime, faithful until death, unless her own life ended first. I was afraid that confronting her directly would break her heart. She loved me as she loved her own life, and I her. But that Maybach was her car. And besides me, she'd never let anyone else drive it. My fists were clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. I struggled to compose myself, my gaze eventually settling on the clock on the wall. A clock we'd hung on our wedding day. We had a pact. No matter what, neither of us would come home later than midnight. Even if out drinking with friends, 1 a.m. was the absolute limit. Listening to the ticking of the clock on the wall, I thought, if she wasn't home by 1 a.m., did it mean she'd found someone new? Should I just disappear from her world? It was 11 p.m. now, 2 more hours until her deadline. I took a deep breath and went to the window. Outside, the lightning and thunder continued their assault, but the streets below were eerily, unnervingly quiet. I stood there silently by the window, waiting for her return. Every passing car sent a jolt of hope through me, only to be followed by an endless wave of disappointment. The wait felt eternal, but time, inevitably, marched on. I glanced at my phone. It was already 1 a.m. She hadn't come home. Tears instantly streamed down my face. I slammed my fist in the wall with all my might, and blood slowly trickled down its surface. The searing pain in my fist was nothing compared to the heart-wrenching agony of this cruel, merciless reality. Song Qingyu and I grew up together. We'd shared every sweet and bitter moment. We were inseparable. As adults, we became husband and wife, closer than kin. Her betrayal has left me adrift, questioning everything. Childhood bonds, first loves, eternal devotion. It all feels like a cruel joke to me now. From this day forward, I will never believe in love again. No one wants to die, but right now, utterly devoid of hope, death is all I desire. My fists clenched in impotent rage. I threw open the door and began to climb, step by agonizing step, toward the villa's rooftop, the muscles in my face twitching violently. Each step felt like a journey through time, visions of our past happiness flashing before my eyes. We met under the sycamore tree at the orphanage and started school together. Whether it was to and from school, in the park, or on the streets, our shadows were always intertwined. Then, during our university years, her biological parents found her. Overnight, she transformed from an orphan into the young heiress of the Song Corporation. But she couldn't bear to leave me behind. I remember it clearly. The day she told her biological parents that her only condition for acknowledging them was their unconditional acceptance of me. I was an orphan, a graduate of an ordinary university. She was now the heiress to the multi-billion song corporation. Naturally, her parents wouldn't agree. I knew it too. Though we were childhood sweethearts, we now belonged to two different worlds. I objected to her making her reunion with her family conditional on me. I only wanted her to be happy. I could bear anything else alone. But she said, if becoming the Song family's heiress means I can't have you by my side, then I don't want the title. We were orphans to begin with. We don't need another identity. Perhaps her parents felt they owed her too much, for they eventually, albeit reluctantly, agreed. Her father said to me, Chun Hao, you and Xingyu grew up together and share a deep bond. If you don't mind, from now on, you'll be like a son to me. Though his words were pleasant, I could still sense his underlying reluctance. Later, after we graduated, she formally joined the Song Corporation, while I chose my passion, teaching and shaping young minds. Our different paths didn't change her. She treated me as wonderfully as ever, and that never wavered. In her third year at the Song Corporation, disaster struck. The plane her parents were on crashed. She was an orphan once more. The only constant was her status as the Song Corporation's heiress, and now, its CEO. However, her parents' sudden deaths threw the corporate power transition into chaos. She juggled funeral arrangements with tackling a myriad of internal company crises. In just half a month, she grew gaunt, losing so much weight it pained me to see. All I could do was stay by her side, a silent shadow, unsure how else to help. It was during that period she revealed another side of herself, swift, decisive, and ruthlessly efficient. In a single month, she seized complete control of the Song Corporation, her name becoming legendary. Once business was settled, she reverted to her old self, collapsing into my arms, sobbing her heart out. If you hadn't been with me, she choked out, I don't know what I would have done. I might not have made it through. My heart ached. All I could offer was a patient ear and hollow words of comfort. As she spoke, she drifted off to sleep in my arms. I gently carried her to bed and turned to leave. But she startled awake, jumped out of bed, and clung to me desperately, crying, I have no family left. Only you. Let's get married. I wanted to refuse. The chasm between our statuses was too vast. But her tear-filled, pleading eyes broke my heart, and I agreed. She said, you are my life. I won't let you suffer the slightest bit. Marry me, and you'll be the happiest husband in the world. And after our wedding, it was true. At the company, she was the aloof, formidable CEO. At home, a devoted and caring wife. She never came home late, not once. But tonight was the first time she hadn't come home on time. And it's our wedding anniversary. Thinking of all the little things from the past, I found myself on the rooftop. The howling wind, lightning, thunder, and torrential rain. It all continued, showing no sign of stopping. I climbed the high steps on the rooftop, and the downpour instantly drenched my clothes. I roared at the sky. Heavens, why are you doing this to me? Tell me, what on earth did I do wrong? I yelled at the sky for what felt like an eternity, just hoping a bolt of lightning would strike me down, so I wouldn't have to suffer like this anymore. But aside from the wind and rain engulfing me, nothing happened. Looking at the city lights in the distance, I knew that if I just took one step forward, I would finally be free. I wouldn't be in so much pain. I closed my eyes and screamed my lungs out again. To hell with this damn love. To hell with undying true love. It's all goddamn bullshit. Gritting my teeth, I took a step forward. My legs buckled, and I tumbled headfirst down the high steps. Only then did I remember, I'm terrified of heights. I didn't want to fall to my death. I wanted a more dignified way to go. But it was too late. Just then, Song Qingyu's desperate voice suddenly cried out, Honey, no. Hearing her voice, I gave a bitter smile. I'd actually forgotten again that I'm terrified of heights. Song Qingyu, your affair led to my death. I wonder if you'll even regret it. But I thought I was dead. When I opened my eyes, I found my face pressed against a cold pile of sand. I then realized there was a small landing below the steps, and someone had left a pile of fine sand there, the kind used for plastering walls. I hadn't died, but I could feel blood trickling from my forehead. Yet, I couldn't feel a thing. Song Qingyu ran to the edge of the steps, wailing, Honey, why would you do this? If you die, how am I supposed to go on alone? I rolled over and looked up at Song Qingyu, my heart still pounding, and asked, I'm still alive. Hearing my voice, Song Qingyu laughed through her tears. Honey, what are you talking about? Of course you're alive. Quick, come here, I'll pull you up. No, I said, looking at Song Qingyu's outstretched hand. I got up and took a step back. Were you at Pine Mountain Park tonight? Pine Mountain Park? Song Qingyu faltered. A flash of lightning illuminated her, and I clearly saw her shiver. Honey, why? Why are you asking that? I pressed on, furious. Just tell me, were you at Pine Mountain Park tonight or not? No, no, I wasn't. Quick, come up, I'm begging you. Song Qingyu's voice trembled slightly, making me suspect she was lying. Then how did you get back? I asked. I took a cab. You wouldn't want me driving in a storm like this, would you? I was speechless. I had indeed warned her not to drive in the rain. I started to resent Wen Jingli. Damn you, Wen Jingli. Why did you have to send me that video? You made me misunderstand Song Qingyu, and you nearly got me killed. I said, ashamed, honey, I'm so sorry. I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamt you. Dreamt I cheated on you, didn't you? Song Qingyu sobbed, a hint of reproach in her voice. When I didn't answer, she pleaded again, honey, please, I'm begging you. Come back up. It's dangerous down there. All right, honey. I'm coming. I hurried up the steps and onto the rooftop. Smack. She slapped me hard across the face, tears streaming down as she cried. You idiot. Trying to jump off a building over a dream? You scare me to death, do you know that? Ignoring the stinging print on my cheek, my heart ached as I pulled her into my arms. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to mention the video. Downstairs in the living room, Song Qingyu, her eyes red, was dabbing medicated oil on my scrapes. I couldn't hold back any longer. Honey, you didn't drive the car back, did you? The moment I spoke, I stared intently into her eyes. If she said she had, it would mean her words on the rooftop were a lie, meaning the car parked by Songshan Park was hers, and she was the one in it. Qingyu's hand, still dabbing the oil, froze. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she began to cry softly. Her tears were my biggest weakness. Helpless, I quickly backed down. Honey, I'm sorry. Please don't cry. I believe you. Only after I reassured her repeatedly did she stop crying. But a thorn of doubt remained lodged in my heart, making me deeply uneasy. After Qingyu finished tending to my wounds, she came over and hugged me. Darling, she began, I want to ask you something, but promise you won't get mad, okay? I nodded. Go ahead. Qingyu looked into my eyes cautiously. What if one day I actually cheated on you? The word cheated struck a raw nerve. I whipped my head around, fixing my gaze intensely on her eyes again. Her eyes darted away, flustered, unable to meet my gaze. She quickly buried her face in my chest. I said, what if? I took a deep breath, stroking her hair. There are no what ifs, I said, a hint of sadness in my voice. If that day ever truly came, I would disappear from your world and set you free. Qingyu's body trembled slightly. Then she laughed. Don't worry, I won't give you that chance. And even if you cheated on me one day, I'd forgive you once. I pushed her away abruptly, stood up, and stalked into the bedroom. There's no room for cheating in my world. I could clearly feel Qingyu was testing my boundaries. Qingyu followed me in, hugging me from behind. Darling, you're angry, aren't you? She said, a light laugh in her voice. I was just kidding. Please don't be mad, okay? I sighed and turned around. I wanted to tell her I loved her more than life itself, that I didn't want to joke about something like this. Just then, her phone suddenly rang. She pulled out her phone, glanced at the caller ID, and a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. Without a word, she hung up and then turned off her phone. She didn't know, but that simple action made something inside me snap. It was only then I remembered she'd suddenly developed this habit over the past month. She wasn't like this before. She never used to avoid taking calls in front of me. I don't know when it started, but she began stepping out to take her calls. And now, though she didn't step out, she didn't take in front of me either. She just hung up and powered it off. After more than 20 years together, I knew her inside out. She definitely had a secret, one she was afraid I'd find out. Thinking about her recent strange behavior with calls, coupled with the video Wen Jingli recorded tonight, I pretty much concluded she was cheating on me. In that instant, my heart felt like it was being violently squeezed, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. She looked up, saw my pale face, and explained in a panic, Honey, it's our wedding anniversary today. I didn't want anyone to disturb us, so I turned off my phone. Her flustered explanation only made me more certain she was hiding something. But I truly loved her to the very marrow of my bones. She wasn't just my wife. She was my companion of over 20 years. My only family in this world. My heart was bleeding. I thought anyone else in this situation would find this unforgivable. But still, I wanted to swallow the pain and give her a chance to turn back. Whatever has already happened, let me bear it alone. Forcing a smile, I pulled her in my arms, a bitter taste rising in my throat. Sweetheart, I said, if you ever find out I've cheated on you, please don't forgive me. I wouldn't forgive myself. I'd disappear from your world. Song Qingyu was very smart. I thought she would understand my hidden meaning. Don't. Song Qingyu hugged me tighter again. If that day ever comes, I would choose to forgive you because I love you. I didn't know if she genuinely hadn't understood or if she was pretending not to, but my heart had already died once for her with this, and in that, I'd already given her a chance to turn back. I believed she loved me. She was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. If she didn't love me, she wouldn't care about my feelings. But if that love was split in two, half for me and half for another man, then I'd rather not have it at all. I'd already warned her. If she insisted on this path, then my only choice would be to leave her world. I gently patted her head, a touch of sadness in my voice. I'm a bit tired. Let's get some rest. On our anniversaries in previous years, we'd make love all night, as if trying to merge into one another. This year, however, I passively let her lean into my embrace. Neither of us spoke, and we drifted off to sleep, each lost in our own thoughts. Early the next morning, I woke with a start to find her side of the bed empty. I went to the living room and immediately saw her bustling about in the kitchen. Watching her move about, I felt a daze come over me. In our daily life, she wasn't like other wealthy people who hired personal chefs and maids. She only employed a part-time cleaner. I couldn't understand it. A woman so thoughtful and domestic. Why would she cheat? Just then, she turned, her eyes full of me as she smiled. You're awake. Go wash up. Breakfast is ready. After washing up, I sat across from her at the dining table. Breakfast tasted the same, but I was much quieter than usual. She looked up and asked, Honey, how about we go see a movie after you finish work? I forced a smile and nodded in agreement. Eventually, she left for her company, and I went to the school. The familiar scent of books washed over me, lifting my spirits considerably. Work is the best way to kill time. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 in the afternoon. My last class of the day was about to begin, and after that, my workday would be over. But it's like they say, when it rains, it pours. I had just finished my last class when a student suddenly fainted, foaming at the mouth and convulsing. It was a frightening sight. My first instinct was to pick up the student, carry them downstairs, put them in my car, and rush to the hospital. As I was driving and nearing Junin Hospital, I instinctively glanced towards it. By the roadside near the hospital entrance, I saw Song Qingyu's back. A man was standing beside her. Just then, the man turned his head with a smile, and I caught a glimpse of his face. I had to admit, the man was strikingly handsome. Over 6 feet tall, with sharp features. Even I found him attractive. My brow furrowed. I didn't understand why Song Qingyu was here. And who was that man with her? What was their relationship? Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the man intimately place his hand on Song Qingyu's shoulder. My pupils instantly constricted. My mind roared, then went completely blank, and I slammed on the brakes involuntarily. The screech of emergency brakes sounded from behind me. The driver of the car behind got out and started yelling. Are you insane? Why'd you slam on your brakes like that? Got a death wish. Snapping out of it, I ignored the driver's curses and sped off. By the time I turned around and drove back, Song Qingyu was gone. Suppressing the deep ache in my heart, I had just finished helping the student with the hospital admission procedures when her call came. Honey, can you come pick me up from the company? I'm too tired to drive today. I froze. How about you be at the company? Just an hour ago, I'd clearly seen her here. Or had I been mistaken? Honey, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything? Her voice came through the phone. Okay, I'll be right there. I hung up and shook my head with a bitter smile. I must have been hallucinating, I thought. After all, many people look similar from behind. It was already 8 p.m. when we arrived at the cinema. The movie hadn't started yet, and the theater was still relatively empty, so we picked the best seats, right in the middle. Just like always, she leaned her head on my shoulder, munching on popcorn. About 10 minutes later, the movie began, and people started trickling in. One of them passed in front of me, and he looked vaguely familiar, like I'd seen him somewhere before. When he sat down next to Song Qingyu, it suddenly clicked. He was the man I'd seen at Junin Hospital. Was this a coincidence? I doubted it. My heart began to race, but I deliberately fixed my gaze on the movie screen, pretending to be engrossed, all while secretly watching Song Qingyu and the man's reactions. I figured tonight would reveal whether Song Qingyu was actually cheating on me. Sure enough, I noticed that as the man sat down beside her, Song Qingyu shot him a warning glance. My heart instantly turned cold. Of course, a single glance didn't prove anything. If they truly were involved, there would definitely be more to come. And indeed, barely 10 minutes into the movie, when everyone's attention was glued to the screen, the man made his move. I saw him reach out and wrap his arm around Song Qingyu's waist. Song Qingyu, startled, pushed his hand away and then looked at me guiltily. Even though my eyes were fixed on the screen, I was watching their every move out of the corner of my eye. If that man had no connection to Song Qingyu, knowing her personality, she would have flown into a rage if he dared to touch her waist like that. As for me, I had already clenched my fists. If Song Qingyu had shown any anger, I would have immediately jumped up and beaten the hell out of that damn bastard. However, Song Qingyu's reaction was a stab to my heart. After removing his hand, she saw me staring at the screen, seemingly oblivious to their little exchange. Only then did she slowly turn her head and, through gritted teeth, shoot him another warning glare. Her reaction sent my mind into a spin. It felt like 1,000 ants were gnawing at my heart, and a bitter taste spread in my throat. I fought to control my emotions. I wanted to see just how far they would go, right in front of me. The next moment, their actions plunged me into despair. I watched as the man's actions became increasingly bold, and Song Qingyu's eyes grew more frantic, constantly darting towards me to check my reaction. If it had ended there, perhaps I could have let it slide. But then, the man suddenly reached out and grabbed Song Qingyu's hand. In that instant, rage surged within me, threatening to erupt at any moment. If Song Qingyu had uttered a single word of protest, I swear that man would have ended up in the hospital for at least half a month, if not longer. I was very confident about that. Although I'm a teacher, I train in boxing in my spare time. But alas, Song Qingyu extinguished the last flicker of hope I had for her, making me give up on her completely. He took Song Qingyu's hand, gently pulled it towards him, and then brought it to his lips, kissing it with relish. Throughout this, Song Qingyu offered no resistance. Her hand only trembled slightly, and her eyes, watching me, grew even more panicked. Song Qingyu's reaction chilled me to the bone. I had no more patience to watch their charade, and my expression turned icy. Song Qingyu might have noticed the change in my expression. Flustered, she pulled her hand back, stood up, and said, "Honey, I'm going to the restroom." Expressionless, I replied, "Okay." Perhaps it was the dim lighting, but as she left, she didn't seem to notice the coldness and disgust on my face. About a minute after Song Qingyu left, the man also got up. As he passed me, he gave me a knowing, provocative smile. After he'd walked some distance, I stood up and followed him. I wanted to see if she was heartless enough to ditch me here and go meet him somewhere else privately. The man didn't go to the restroom. Instead, he headed to a VIP private room. Clearly, they had already arranged it. Like some voyeuristic clown, I followed from a distance. Inside the private room, when Song Qingyu saw the man enter, her face turned cold. She strode forward, slapped him across the face, and hissed, "You've got some nerve. Are you looking to die?" The man, unfazed by the stinging pain on his cheek, pulled her into an embrace and said coaxingly, "I'm sorry. I just missed you too much." I rushed to the door of the private room in a few strides. Just then, I heard Song Qingyu's voice again. "No, I can't keep him waiting too long. Don't worry, he's probably completely engrossed in the movie right now." I bit down hard, tasting the metallic tang of blood on my lips. My hands, already clenched into fists, were rigid with bulging veins. I fought the urge to kick down the door of the private room and catch them in the act. In the end, I restrained myself. After all, we had truly loved each other once and shared a bond from childhood. Besides, she wasn't forced. She was doing this willingly. If I barged in, how could she face the humiliation? Would she be so ashamed she might even kill herself? It's true, I hated her for her betrayal, but I never wanted her dead. In the end, I sighed in despair, a silent lament in my heart. So be it. Since you're willing, why should I tear you apart? I just need to disappear from her world, silently. I don't know how I managed to walk out of the movie theater. The once vibrant streets instantly lost their color in my eyes, turning a dull, lifeless gray. I stood on the sidewalk like a soulless husk, my eyes vacant as I watched the traffic pass by. Song Qingyu's beautiful, smiling face kept flashing in my mind, only to shatter into pieces again and again. Passers-by kept glancing at me strangely, whispering amongst themselves. It was as if the man she was cheating with stood in the shadows behind me, sneering triumphantly. "You're just a coward. You didn't even dare to catch them in the act. You deserve to be cuckolded by me." I don't know how much time passed before Song Qingyu found me. She gently hugged me from behind, resting her head on my back, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Honey, when did you come out? I called you, but you didn't answer. You scare me to death, you know." I gently pried her hands off me and walked toward the parking lot without a word. I could feel her body tremble slightly as I removed her hands. Sensing my rejection, she hurried in front of me, panic in her eyes, and stared at my lifeless face. Her voice choked with tears. She reached out to wipe the dried tear tracks from my face. "Honey, why are you crying? Did I do something to make you angry?" I move her hand away. No, I'm just feeling a bit melancholic. Melancholic about what? Songqing Yu asked, alarmed. I shook my head. I can't remember. I'll tell you when I do. On the way back, she kept trying to make conversation, attempting to find out why I had suddenly fallen silent. I knew what she was up to, but I was in no mood to listen to her insincere words. All I could think about was how to leave her world. Death was the most direct way, but I had already died for her once. I didn't want to go through that again. However, she was rich and powerful. As long as I was in the country, she could find me if she wanted to. I figured, apart from faking my own death, there was probably no other way out. Just as I was contemplating how to fake my death, her phone suddenly rang, and she had left it where I could see it. The caller ID showed no name, but it made her visibly flustered. You should answer it. It might be urgent, I said, then turned my head to look out the window. She didn't answer, immediately declined the call, and then turned off her phone. I don't usually answer calls when I'm driving, except yours, she said. Doesn't usually answer calls? Except mine, she says. Her ability to lie so brazenly without batting, and I truly amazed me. She was clearly afraid I'd uncover her secret, yet she spun such a tale to feign affection. How had I never noticed this talent of hers before? I didn't call her out, nor did I say anything. I didn't want to speak. She opened her mouth, about to make another excuse, but seeing my eyes were closed, she could only focus on driving. Back home, I wordlessly went into the bathroom, turned on the tap, and let the water pour over my head. The rush of frigid water didn't impede my hearing. Not long after it started, I heard the front door open. I knew she'd gone outside to return that call from the unsaved number. If I hadn't seen her cheating with my own eyes at the movie theater, I probably would have snuck out right then to see who on earth she was calling. But now, knowing the answer, why torture myself further? I came out of the bathroom and went straight to the bedroom. Just as I lay down, she returned, call finished. She hugged me gently from behind, her face pressed against the back of my head. I desperately wanted to break free from her hypocritical embrace, but to disappear from her life without a ripple, to not arouse her suspicion. I had to endure it. Songqing Yu, tomorrow, I want to go inspect the branch offices. I might be away from you for a while. Is that okay? Me, all right. I understand. My tone was the same as always, just with less emotion, a shade more detached. She seemed to sense the change in me and asked tentatively, Honey, what's been wrong with you these past couple of days? I feel like you're a different person. Have I? I was surprised by her sixth sense. Not wanting to make her suspicious, I turned and pulled her into an embrace. Maybe I've just been overworked lately, feeling a bit stressed and down. Songqing Yu sighed. It's all my fault. I haven't been taking good care of you. But don't worry, I'll try my best to be back by your birthday. Her reminder made me realize that my 28th birthday was just over 20 days away. I sighed inwardly. Fine then, let me disappear from her world before that day comes. Just then, she suddenly kissed my lips. I recoiled as if I'd been electrocuted, pushing her away instantly, unthinking. She stared at me in disbelief, tears welling in her eyes. I'd never rejected her before. This was the first time. My reaction had clearly made her suspicious. To dispel her doubts, I reluctantly pulled her back into my arms. I'm just a little tired. She shook her head. No, I need to be sure you're not angry. Only then can I leave with peace of mind tomorrow. Her words brought back the image of her with that man at the movie theater, their clandestine affair. I looked at her face, really looked. The same face, but her heart had changed. Suddenly, tears streamed from her eyes, tracing paths down her cheeks. In that moment, I admit my resolve wavered. The next morning, I walked her downstairs as usual. As we were about to part, she suddenly blushed and whispered in my ear, "Wait for me at home." And I was very satisfied last night. With that, she kissed my forehead and, as I watched, drove off in her Maybach, vanishing down the road. I couldn't help but feel a pang of loss, a dull ache in my heart. I remembered how I used to be, always so tender with her, so careful, terrified of accidentally causing her the slightest pain. Last night, I'd unleashed all my pent-up frustration from the past 2 days on her. Yet, today she told me she was very satisfied. I thought I knew her. It seems I was just fooling myself. But none of that matters anymore. I'll just let this be our final moment of tenderness. I drove to an agency and went straight to see the boss. After hearing about the services I needed, he was both shocked and delighted. Shocked, because neither he nor his team had ever handled such a request. No, scratch that. He'd never even heard of such a service. The boss knew full well this kind of business wasn't just skirting the law, it was outright criminal. Delighted, because although the risk was extremely high, the pay was exceptionally good. This one job for me would cover his company's net profit for several years. You have to understand, his agency normally just helped people obtain and rent out licenses and qualifications. Making a net profit of $400,000 or $500,000 a year was already good for them, but my offer was $2 million. Money makes the mayor go. Truer words were never spoken. Although my request leaned towards the criminal, the boss couldn't resist the temptation and finally agreed. When we signed the contract, the boss asked, "Mr. Chenhao, are you absolutely sure about this? Once your original identity is erased, Chenhao will cease to exist. There will only be Chen Xin." I nodded and signed my name. Afterward, I took the boss to the bank and withdrew a $500,000 deposit for him. The rest would be paid upon completion. The reason I didn't opt for a mobile transfer was that I was afraid Song Qingyu might trace it back to this agency after I disappeared. If that happened, my fake death would be all for nothing. Since I decided to vanish from her world, I had to make sure I was untraceable. Next, I went to the school and submitted my resignation letter, then went to get divorce papers drawn up. It was already afternoon by the time I got home. Looking at the wedding photo of Song Qingyu and me in the bedroom, sharp pangs of pain shot through my heart. She wasn't just my wife. She was also my childhood sweetheart, the one I grew up with, and my only family in this world. If she hadn't chosen to cheat, I could have forgiven and tolerated anything else. Just as she'd said, if it had only been a one-time affair, even though it would have torn me up inside, I would have forgiven her if she'd come back to me. Unfortunately, she didn't. Her actions with that man in the movie theater, right in front of me, made me give up on her completely. Perhaps the deeper the love, the deeper the hate. I deliberately saved the video of her and that man having sex in a car at Songsan Park. Although I didn't want her dead, I wanted her to live with guilt for the rest of her life. I wouldn't be receiving the birthday gift she sent me this year, but I hoped she would like the gift I was leaving for her. Maybe she'd be filled with regret. Maybe I meant nothing to her. Maybe I was just a passerby in her life. With bloodshot eyes, I took down our wedding photo from the wall, carefully cut out my portion with scissors, leaving only hers, and then hung it back up. Then I went to the safe we shared. There were no valuables in it, only our marriage certificate and household registration book. I squatted down, entered the password, and took them out. Again, I used the scissors to cut out my part from both documents. By the time I finished, tears were streaming down my face without me even realizing it. If I'd had any other choice, who would willingly do something that, to hurt the enemy 1,000-fold, wounds oneself 800-fold? My heart ached so much it was hard to breathe. I lay flat on the bed and tried to start healing myself. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. Someone was adding me on WeChat. The verification message read, "Are you Song Qingyu's husband?" I froze. I had a pretty good idea who it was. I accepted his friend request. I wanted to see what he wanted by adding me. He seemed incredibly impatient. Less than a minute after I accepted his request, he sent a picture. Song Qingyu asleep in bed. From the picture, Song Qingyu was clearly tired, asleep in his arms. I had thought I was completely over Song Qingyu, that nothing she did could hurt me anymore. But I was wrong. Seeing her lying in another man's arms, something deep inside me shattered into pieces, and the turmoil wouldn't subside for a long, long time. I had suspected her so-called trip to inspect the branch office was just an excuse to meet that man. And now, the truth was exactly as I guessed. But when the truth was laid bare before me, I still couldn't take it. I closed my eyes in pain and took a deep breath. When I opened them again, I saved the photos. These would be the last gifts I ever gave to Song Qingyu. What I didn't expect was just how bold that man could be. He had the audacity to provoke me openly, the rightful husband. I knew exactly why he sent those photos. What I didn't understand was where his confidence came from, this blind belief that he was the winner. I wondered, when Song Qingyu sees the photos he sent me and mistakenly thinks they led to my death, will he still feel so smug? I could imagine her flying into a rage, blaming him entirely for my end. Song Qingyu isn't someone to mess with. I've seen what she's capable of. I wouldn't be surprised if, when that time comes, he ends up paying a heavy price. If things get serious, these photos could very well be the end of him. I put away my phone and began packing my clothes. Some were things I bought myself. Others were gifts from Song Qingyu. When I finished, I realized everything I bought fit neatly into a single suitcase. But the things she gave me, even a few suitcases weren't enough. Heartbroken, I carried all the clothes she bought me up to the rooftop and burned them one piece at a time. I burned the wedding photos I had cut out, the photo from the household registration book, the copy of our marriage certificate. Everything that tied me to her, I turned it all to ash. When Song Qingyu comes back, I don't want her to see a single trace of me, not even the gift she once gave. After finishing, I returned to bed and lay there, thinking, now, all that's left is to wait for the news. The call from the agency boss never came, but Song Qingyu's call did. She was traveling. Normally, she never called this late. But every night, she used to send a video call so we could miss each other together. This time, it was just a voice call. When I answered, I heard her tired voice. "Hubby, did you miss me?" The moment I heard her, the image of her sleeping naked in another man's arms flashed through my mind. It stabbed me to my core. She asked if I missed her, as if that were up to me. Every time I close my eyes, I see her wrapped up with him. Even when I try not to think about it, the images force their way back in. I clench my fists, forcing my voice to stay gentle. "Of course I missed you. How could I not?" She said, "I don't know what's wrong tonight. I just feel a little unsettled. Everything okay at home?" I looked at the wedding photo, still hanging on the wall, just her in the frame now. "Don't worry. I'm fine. Eating well, sleeping well." She sighed. "I'm sorry, hubby. After this trip, I'll try to spend more time at home. I've got something to take care of now, so I'm hanging up." After she ended the call, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Rage surged through me as I smashed my phone against the bed. My mouth twitched uncontrollably, and once again, tears streamed down my face. As a man, I had lost every shred of dignity. For the next few days, I met up with my friends for drinks every day. After all, once I faked my death and left, seeing them again would be difficult. My friends all joked that I'd had a complete change of personality. They all knew that, in the past, getting me to go out for drinks with them was a real challenge. These days, with me actively asking them out for drinks, they all felt like the sun had risen in the west. You have to understand, in their eyes, I'd long been labeled as henpecked. And I couldn't blame them, because Song Qingyu didn't like the smell of alcohol on me. I cared about Song Qingyu's feelings, so it really was difficult for them to get me to drink, unless it was absolutely unavoidable. Amidst my sudden change in personality, only Wen Jingli among them sensed something was off. Once he discreetly asked me, "Chen Hao, did you have a fight with Song Qingyu?" I didn't answer, just kept urging him to drink. But somehow, an inexplicable sadness seeped into my words and demeanor. During these days of drinking with them, Song Qingyu would call me as usual, just like always. And I played along perfectly, maintaining my usual tone and showing her every consideration. It was just that the man, besides sending photos of Song Qingyu sleeping in bed every day, also sent a few audio recordings. My heart, initially in turmoil, gradually became numb. Until the 15th day, the boss of the agency told me everything was ready. They were just waiting for me to pay the final installment to implement my fake death plan. Only then did my heart feel a sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. I thought, finally, I wouldn't have to wear a false mask and engage in insincere conversations with Song Qingyu. I went to the agency as agreed and received my new identity. The name Chen Hao was also canceled at that very moment. From now on, there would be no Chen Hao in this world, only Chen Xin. I just needed to complete the final step, and then I would make Song Qingyu believe that I had completely left her, vanished from her world. After buying a plane ticket to Northland Mountain City for that evening using my new ID, I drove to the bank and withdrew $5 million in cash. Most of this money was living expenses Song Qingyu had the finance department transfer to my salary account. A very small portion was my actual salary. With the money withdrawn, the salary account, of course, had to be closed. Afterward, I met the head of the agency, and we drove to the destination for the final phase of the plan, a winding mountain road. I had no idea where he'd found the body double, but the man's build bore a striking resemblance to mine. As he heaved the body into the driver's seat of my car, I saw his hands wouldn't stop shaking. It didn't impede his actions, though. He then pulled a canister of gasoline, already prepared, from the trunk of his car and doused the interior of mine. Once it was lit, we pushed the car over the cliff together. With that done, I rode back with him. The entire journey, however, his face was deathly pale, and his body trembled uncontrollably. I even began to wonder if he'd murdered the body double himself. Why else would he be so terrified? Back home, I placed my phone in the safe, cast one last, lingering look at the love nest I had once shared with her, and then headed straight for the airport without a backward glance. As for my new identity, no one knew except the agency head. I wasn't worried about him exposing me. Doing so would do him more harm than good. The moment I stepped onto the plane, a profound sense of relief finally washed over my mind and body. From now on, I thought, Song Qingyu and I would be worlds apart, destined never to meet again for the rest of our lives. Meanwhile, in a private room of a high-end hotel in Jiangsheng, Song Qingyu suddenly felt a sharp pang in her chest and shoved away the man embracing her. The man's name was Fu Yunshun, a junior manager at a subsidiary of the Song Group. He had only caught Song Qingyu's eye because she'd accidentally discovered that, like me, he possessed the rare Rh-negative blood type. what some called panda blood. But as time went on, he deluded himself into thinking he'd conquered Song Qingyu and began to entertain presumptuous notions. Song Qingyu's reaction today caught him off guard. Ever since they'd become intimate, this was the first time she had ever rejected him. Unwilling to accept it, he prepared to step forward and finish what they'd started. However, he suddenly noticed that Song Qingyu's gaze had turned icy, long devoid of its previous tenderness. He had no choice but to stop, forcing a smile as he looked at her. "Get dressed. Take me to the hospital," Song Qingyu commanded. Without even a glance at him, she quickly dressed and walked out. Fu Yinshin stood there, stunned, for a good while before he finally started to put on his clothes. Jiangcheng Hospital. Song Qingyu clutched a pregnancy test, tears streaming down her face as she muttered to herself. "I've achieved my goal. I should be happy. So why is there this strange sadness?" Song Qingyu wiped the tears from her face, then shredded the test and threw it into the trash can. Then she walked out of the hospital. Fu Yinshin, driving her Maybach, pulled up right in front of her almost immediately. Song Qingyu glanced at him, walked to the passenger side, opened the door, and got in without a word. Fu Yinshin offered what he considered a gentlemanly smile and reached out to stroke her hair. But unexpectedly, Song Qingyu turned to him, her expression icy, and stared him down. "Fu Yinshin," she said, "as of now we're through." With that, Song Qingyu, her face a mask of frost, slapped his outstretched hand away. Fu Yinshin's expression turned exceedingly grim. What? He didn't know what he'd done wrong to make Song Qingyu suddenly turn on him like this today. Song Qingyu sneered. "This was just an act between us. Why so many whys? But don't worry, I'll give you a sum of money, and then we'll never see each other again." Fu Yinshin shrugged and asked, "Can you stay with me for a few more days?" "No, I have this strange unease in my heart. I need to go back and see if he's okay." At this, Song Qingyu took a card from her bag and looked at him. "There are 5 million on this card. Don't ever appear before me again." With that, Song Qingyu tossed the card to him and gestured for him to get out of the car. Seeing Song Qingyu wasn't joking, a complex mix of unwillingness, jealousy, and other emotions flashed in Fu Yinshin's eyes. He knew Song Qingyu's status very well. 5 million was hardly his goal. He wanted her heart. As long as her heart was his, or if he became her man in every sense of the word, wouldn't Song Qingyu's money be his money? But now, Song Qingyu was shattering his hopes. How could he be reconciled to that? So he handed the card back, feigning deep affection, and said, "I love you too. Am I really no match for him?" Smack! Song Qingyu slapped him across the face. Her expression glacial. She said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you compare yourself to my husband? Get rid of your petty schemes. I will only ever have one husband, and that's Chun Hao." Fu Yinshin wanted to say more, but Song Qingyu's frigid voice cut in again. "If you don't get out of this car right now, you can forget about the 5 million too." Fu Yinshin touched his stinging cheek, reluctantly took the card, and got out of the car, his heart filled with resentment. He hadn't expected Song Qingyu to turn on him so quickly and without any warning. After Song Qingyu drove off, he took out his phone. He opened my WeChat account and looked at the pictures and voice recordings he had sent me. A smile spread across his face. "Song Qingyu," he mused, "you'll never escape my grasp." Driving, Song Qingyu felt an increasing panic in her heart, a sense that something terrible was about to happen. She took out her phone and, while driving, dialed my number. But all she heard was a mechanical voice. "Hello, the number you have dialed is switched off." Song Qingyu panicked instantly. The ominous premonition in her heart grew stronger. In all these years, my phone had never been switched off. She knew this very well. She hurriedly drove to Jiangcheng Airport. She felt driving was too slow. A plane would be much faster. Arriving at the ticket counter, she hastily bought an urgent flight ticket to Jingdu. She had to get home as soon as possible to see if something had happened to me. Just as she got her plane ticket, a call came in from a number identified as the Jingdu Traffic Police. She answered, pushing down her rising panic. "Hello, is this Ms. Song Qingyu?" "Yes, this is she. What is it?" "Ah, it's like this. There's been a car accident on Panshan Highway. A car went off a cliff. The owner's name is Chun Hao. Do you know him?" Song Qingyu felt her vision go black, and she nearly collapsed. Leaning against the wall for support, she struggled to remain calm and asked, "Are you sure you haven't made a mistake?" She knew Panshan Highway. It was nothing but cliffs and winding roads. Driving there was indeed dangerous. But she couldn't believe I would go there, nor could she think of any reason for me to. Panshan Highway was 50 kilometers from the home she and I once shared. She thought I'd only go there if I had nothing better to do. "Ms. Song, we've confirmed it. The deceased driver is indeed Chun Hao. Hearing this, Song Qingyu's face turned deathly pale, and tears burst forth. She roared into the phone. "I don't believe you. You're lying to me." With that, she hung up, her whole body trembling as she leaned against the wall. The Jingdu traffic police called again, but she didn't even look at the screen before rejecting the call. Shaking uncontrollably, she mumbled to herself, "No, it can't be. They must be lying to me." The express flight to Kyoto was still an hour away, and Song Qingyu felt that hour pass excruciatingly slowly. Finally, trembling, she boarded the plane. After disembarking, she didn't go to the traffic police department first. Instead, she immediately got into the car that was already waiting and rushed home desperately. All the while, she prayed silently that the traffic police had simply made a mistake, called the wrong person, and that I was still at home, safe and sound, waiting for her. Once home, she quickly threw open the front door. Stepping inside, frantic with anxiety, she began to shout my name. But apart from the empty, luxurious villa, my figure was long gone, let alone the sound of my voice in response. Song Qingyu's heart pounded with panic, and she felt like something was missing from the house. She scanned the living room, her gaze suddenly freezing on the spot where the wall clock should have been. The clock was gone. To others, it was just an ordinary wall clock, but for her, the clock's presence in the house meant home was still whole. She didn't believe a thief had broken in and stolen the clock. Only I could have taken it. The clock represented a promise between us. My taking it meant one of us had broken that promise. Song Qingyu trembled all over. Her gaze shifted to the shoe cabinet, and she could no longer hold back her heart-wrenching sobs. Only her shoes remained in the cabinet. All of mine were gone, not even a single slipper left behind. Like a woman unhinged, Song Qingyu dashed into the bedroom, her eyes immediately falling on the wedding photo on the bedside table. The photo was mutilated. Only her portion remained, while my part had also vanished. A desolate chill swept over Song Qingyu. She didn't know what she had done wrong for me to punish her like this. Song Qingyu collapsed onto the bed, biting her lip hard, trying to force herself to calm down. Suddenly, she remembered that night at the cinema. After her deep exchange with Fu Yunshun, she had returned to find me gone. At the time, frantic, she had called my phone. It rang, but no one answered. She had rushed out of the cinema, only to find me on the street outside, with tear tracks on my face. She had thought their exchange was brief, that she had returned quickly enough, and that I wouldn't suspect anything. But the more she thought about it now, the more uneasy she felt. Could it be? Did he secretly follow me that night and find out about Fu Yunshin and me? No, impossible. Song Qingyu, pale-faced, muttered, dismissing the thought. She knew very well that no normal man could tolerate his woman cheating on him. Similarly, she couldn't bear her beloved husband cheating on her with another woman. It was just that she couldn't be certain whether I had followed her that night. In the end, she dismissed the idea. She reasoned that if I had indeed followed her and discovered her sordid affair with Fu Yunshan, I would have caught them in the act immediately, or at least confronted her, starting a huge fight afterward. She felt that in such matters, I would have to be less than a man to tolerate it. Suddenly, an even more terrifying thought struck her. Trembling and stumbling, she made her way to the safe. With shaking hands, she slowly opened it. Inside, besides the household registration book and their marriage certificate, were two more items: divorce papers and my mobile phone. Although she had somewhat anticipated it, seeing the divorce papers I had left for her still made Song Qingyu's chest ache so much she could hardly breathe. Didn't she love me? She could tell the whole world that she loved me, that she would do anything for me. It was just that at some point, this love had lost its way, slipped from her control. Suppressing the pain in her heart, Song Qingyu took out the phone and the divorce papers. She knew I wouldn't have put my phone in the safe for no reason. Since it was there, it must hold a deeper meaning. Song Qingyu took out the phone from the safe and found it was dead. She hurriedly grabbed a charger from her bag and plugged it in. As she inserted the cable, she noticed a bank card tucked inside the phone case. She pulled it out and immediately recognized it. It was the card she had given me on our wedding day. It didn't hold much, only 523,140,000 yuan. But the amount carried a message: I love you for a lifetime. Song Qingyu was devastated. She believed that if I had taken the card with me, it meant I was safe. But the fact that it was left untouched meant I had already accepted death. As for the divorce agreement, she barely glanced at it. If I were still alive, she would never agree to a divorce, no matter the cost. Because to her, I wasn't just her lover, I was her only family. But if I was already gone, the divorce agreement meant nothing. In her heart, there was only widowhood, not divorce. Barely 10 minutes after plugging in the charger, she impatiently turned on the phone, eager to see what I had left behind. She opened WeChat, and her eyes immediately narrowed. She recognized Fu Yunshin's profile at a glance. Damn it! Song Qingyu's face twisted with rage, her eyes brimming with murderous intent. She finally understood why I left her. The problem was right here. She had thought she'd covered her tracks well. Aside from that time at the movie theater, she believed I hadn't discovered anything. But she had underestimated Fu Yunshin's greed. He never intended to be just a fling. He wanted to take my place as her husband. She opened Fu Yunshin's chat. It was filled with pictures of her in his arms. She couldn't help but imagine the moment I saw those photos. The torment, the heartbreak that gnawed at me day after day, until I could no longer bear it and chose to drive off a cliff to end it all. She knew that if our roles were reversed, she wouldn't have survived either. At best, she'd self-harm. At worst, she might truly choose death. After all, who could endure endless betrayal from the one they loved most? Tears streamed down Song Qingyu's face as she gritted her teeth. Fu Yunshin, I'm going to make you pay. She continued scrolling down, determined to uncover anything else she didn't know. Eventually, she came across a video from one Jingli, a clip of her and Fu Yunshin together in a car by the roadside at Songshan Park. Her eyes widened in shock. A deep sense of guilt surged through her. She finally realized I had given her a chance to turn back. She just hadn't known it. She gently touched her belly and whispered, I'm sorry, my love. I only did this to fulfill your dream of becoming a father. I never meant to hurt you. Wiping away her tears, Song Qingyu told herself to stay strong. She knew I wouldn't want to see her fall apart like this. She touched her belly again, eyes full of sorrow. Baby, let's go bring your father home. The child growing inside her was Fu Yunshin's, already over a month along. But she would never let the child recognize him as the father. The only father in that child's life would be Chun Hao. As for Fu Yunshin, she had never intended to kill him. But now his arrogance had cost me my life. And so, her heart turned cold. In her eyes, Fu Yunshin was already a dead man. With her vast fortune, eliminating a nobody like him would be easy. There were countless ways. With hatred burning in her eyes, Song Qingyu stood and headed downstairs. Once in the car, she picked up her phone and called the head of security at her company. I don't ever want to see Fu Yunshin again. She hung up immediately. The security chief understood instantly. He knew exactly who Fu Yunshin was, a mid-level manager at a branch office with a gambling problem and mountains of debt. Without their boss, Fu Yunshin was just another white-collar addict in a suit. Jingdu Traffic Police Department. Song Qingyu, her face pale, walked in. Led by a staff member, she arrived at the funeral home. In the morgue, a staff member pointed to a figure covered with a white sheet. Ms. Song, please confirm if this is your husband. Tears streamed down her face as Song Qingyu nodded. She reached out a trembling hand and carefully pulled back the white sheet. Beneath it lay a body, burned beyond recognition, impossible to identify. However, the build was undoubtedly mine. When she saw the Rolex watch on the corpse's hand, her last shred of hope was shattered. She had to admit this body was mine. That watch was a wedding gift from her. I never took it off, except when I slept. She despaired. Her heart-wrenching sobs went on and on. Her agonizing cries even brought tears to the eyes of the traffic police staff. Such a loving couple, what a pity. A staff member handed her a tissue. Ms. Song, please accept our condolences. If you confirmed, please sign the death certificate. No, no. Song Qingyu shook her head in anguish, crying, I still don't believe you would leave me. Sigh. The staff member sighed and handed her the autopsy report. Song Qingyu took the report with trembling hands, then froze on the spot as if struck by lightning. What's wrong, Ms. Song? Is there a problem with the report? The staff member quickly asked upon seeing her reaction. Song Qingyu stopped crying, pointing at the report in her hand. She looked at the staff member. Are you sure the deceased is O-type blood? The staff member replied, Yes, this is to facilitate identification by the family. Is there an issue? Receiving the affirmative reply, Song Qingyu smiled. Just as the staff member thought she had gone mad, Song Qingyu shook her head and said, You've made a mistake. This man isn't my husband. My husband has Rh-negative blood. Before the staff member could process her words, she turned and left. Now, she had only one thought in her mind, to find me. As for whether I could forgive her, she didn't dare to consider it. She knew very well that her actions had crossed my bottom line. Reconciliation would be incredibly difficult, but she felt that even if I couldn't forgive her, she had to get me back by her side. I am hers, in life and in death. This was her obsession with me. After getting into her car, Song Qingyu dialed Wen Jingli's number. What is it? Wen Jingli's unfriendly tone from the start made her face burn. Previously, Wen Jingli would always address her respectfully as sister-in-law, never speaking to her like this. At the same time, she sensed from Wen Jingli's tone that I might have told him about her affair. After all, besides her, my wife, Wen Jingli was the only brother I had grown up with. Song Qingyu didn't get angry, just asked with a flushed face, Jingli, you know where Chun Hao went, don't you? I don't know. After saying that, Jingli angrily hung up the phone. In fact, Wen Jingli really didn't know where I'd gone. He only knew I hadn't contacted her for days. As for Song Qingyu's affair, Wen Jingli only found out just before I left. It was after I got completely drunk and, emboldened by the alcohol, vented the grievances pin up in my heart. As for what I specifically said, I myself am not clear. I only know that he, Wen Jingli, was the one who took me home. Song Qingyu knew she was in the wrong, so she didn't get angry. She called everyone I might know. As a result, no one knew where I had gone. Helplessly, she dialed Wen Jingli's number again. She felt that Wen Jingli should have some clue about me. However, she made several consecutive calls, all of which Wen Jingli hung up. She seethed. She knew very well that Wen Jingli was my best friend. If she had a choice, she wouldn't want to fall out with him. But to find me, she gritted her teeth and sent Wen Jingli a threatening message. If you don't tell me where Chun Hao is, I'll make your company go bankrupt instantly. After sending the message, her hand trembled slightly. She only wanted news of me. She couldn't care about anything else. She believed Wen Jingli wouldn't dare to gamble. Wen Jingli's company was just a small firm, and he had elderly parents and young children to support, all relying on this small company for their livelihood. If the company went bankrupt, it would be a price Wen Jingli couldn't afford to pay. And indeed, it was so. In less than 5 minutes, Wen Jingli, left with no choice, compromised and sent back a message. I really don't know where Chun Hao went. He drank too much that day and let it slip. That's how I found out you cheated. After seeing Wen Jingli's reply, Song Qingyu powerlessly put down her phone. She believed Wen Jingli wouldn't dare lie to her. Since he said he didn't know, he definitely didn't know. Song Qingyu pondered for a moment, then called the school where I used to work. After getting my usual salary account number, she transferred 10 million into it. She thought that as long as I used the money in that account, she could find out which city I was in. However, not long after the transfer, a bank employee called her back. Hello, Ms. Song. The account you transfer money to was closed several days ago. Closed? Song Qingyu exclaimed, hardly believing her ears. He even closed the account? How will he get by? Song Qingyu's mind was instantly thrown into turmoil. She didn't know what to do. She felt that I could be angry and avoid her, but she had to ensure I was financially secure. Song Qingyu drove home. The house, once filled with my constant presence, my figure an echo in its rooms, now held only her. The warmth of yesteryear was gone, and a chilling desolation washed over her. I just wanted our family to be whole. Was I really so wrong? Tears streamed down Song Qingyu's face as she scanned the rooms, searching for anything I might have left behind. To her despair, not a single one of my belongings remained, not even a stray strand of hair. She sat alone on the sofa for a long, long time, like a soulless husk. Suddenly, she shot up from the sofa, her eyes blazing with a steely resolve. Hubby, I will find you. You're mine forever, unless I die. With that, she dialed Fu Yunshin's number. The moment the call connected, Fu Yunshin's flippant, teasing voice came through. What's wrong, baby? Miss me already? Song Qingyu's face was glacial. She swiftly hid the murderous glint in her eyes, yet her voice remained eerily calm. Go to Jiangxing Airport, get my car, and bring it back. I'll be waiting at home. All right, baby. You just wait for me. Listening to Fu Yunshin's elated voice on the other end, a sneer curled Song Qingyu's lips. Fu Yunshin, ecstatic, rushed to the airport. Keys in hand, he sped towards Jingdu at 150 kilometers per hour, humming a little tune. His mind conjured images of my pathetic retreat, a stark contrast to his own envisioned grand entrance into the limelight. He, Fu Yunshin, would henceforth be Song Qingyu's man, with inexhaustible spending money and an endless parade of women. Lost in these daydreams, he unknowingly crossed into the Jingdu district. Suddenly, a large truck ahead veered out of control, instantly slamming into his car. Fu Yunshin felt the world spin, his vision rapidly blackening as sensation fled his body. He couldn't accept dying like this. An immense fortune, practically within his grasp, awaited his enjoyment. He fought to lift his head, desperate to see who had snatched away his colossal prize. Through blurring vision, he saw a thuggish-looking driver with a fleshy face staring at him, a sneer playing on his lips, even as he reported the incident. "Hello, is this 110? My truck was in an accident on National Highway 210. The driver's mocking smile made everything click into place. This was no accident. They deliberately hit him, intending to kill him. He had no such enemies. It had to be an orchestrated hit, and the mastermind could only be Song Qingyu. Regret flooded him. He regretted provoking me, regretted it so deeply, for it had brought this fatal calamity upon him. If only time could turn back, he would never have entertained those petty schemes. All he'd wanted was to make some extra money, then get far, far away from that demon, Song Qingyu. But alas, it was too late. Time could not be rewound, and life offered no second chances. North Border Mountain City, the University District. After I got here, I took over a quiet little bar across from the campus. It wasn't much, just over 100 square meters, but the peaceful atmosphere and the soft, comforting music made me fall for the place. The previous owner had grumbled it was too small, with no real profit margin. But for me, alone and without any baggage, it was enough to get by. Winters melted into springs, and just like that, 5 years had passed. Perhaps it was a classic case of unlucky in love, lucky in business. Since I took over, the bar had thrived. During peak season, my net profit would top 50 or 60,000, and even in the off-season, I'd still pull in 5 or 6,000. In those 5 years, Song Qingyu's image had gradually blurred in my mind. I was even starting to forget what she looked like. I have to admit, forgetting someone you love to the core of your being is incredibly difficult. It felt like being reforged in a furnace, an agony so intense it made life unbearable. Every time Song Qingyu's image surfaced, I'd clench my teeth and imagine a blade striking me, desperately trying to force her from my thoughts. Each time she came to mind, I'd conjure that blade to metaphorically strike myself down. Yet the more I did this, the harder she was to forget. I knew, of course, that the easiest way to truly forget her would be for someone else to enter my life. But her betrayal had shattered my faith in love. That is, until 3 years ago, when a customer with the WeChat name Lovesick appeared. She was a mystery. I'd never seen her in person. Yet, every single day, for 3 years, without missing one, she'd have someone pick up a cocktail I'd mixed for her. Over time, though we'd never met face-to-face, we became friends who could talk about anything. One day, she suddenly said she wanted to hear my story. Perhaps I'd been bottling things up for too long and needed an outlet. As if guided by some unseen force, I began to tell her everything. I believed I had forcibly suppressed the past, that my heart wouldn't stir. However, I had underestimated the depth of the wounds Song Qingyu had inflicted. By the time I finished my story, I felt utterly exposed and wounded, body and soul all over again. After listening to my story about Song Qingyu, she shared hers. She said she once had a husband who cherished her more than his own life, but she'd carelessly lost him. She said she loved her husband profoundly, more than she loved herself. But fate, it seemed, had played a cruel joke on them. Years of marriage, yet no children. Seeing the endless yearning in her husband's eyes whenever he looked at other people's children pained her deeply. So, she resolved to fulfill his dream of fatherhood, no matter the cost. Thus, she chose to secretly have an affair with another man. Her sole purpose was to conceive. She planned to return to her normal life immediately after getting pregnant. But, as they say, you can't wrap fire in paper. The truth eventually came out. Her husband discovered it and left her forever. After finishing her story, she asked me, "If you were my husband, would you forgive me?" To be honest, her story moved me deeply. I found myself wondering if Song Qingyu's affair had been like hers, simply a desperate desire for a child. But I quickly dismissed the thought. Firstly, I was a healthy man. If she'd wanted a child, I would have wholeheartedly supported her. The reason we didn't have children was that Song Qingyu hadn't wanted them. Her excuse was, "I'm not ready to be a mother yet." I loved her, and though I desperately wanted a child of our love, I suppressed my true feelings and respected her wishes. I believe Song Qingyu's infidelity had nothing to do with wanting children. She, Song Qingyu, had simply come into money and, like some people, decided she could have her affairs on the side while keeping her marriage secure. I couldn't answer Lovesick's question. I wasn't her husband. Even hypothetically, I didn't want to touch such a raw nerve. As a man, I couldn't accept or understand her actions. Even if physical limitations prevented conception, there are many ways to address that sorrow. Adoption, for instance, or trying IVF. But to resort to an affair to conceive with another man. I felt that even if the initial intention was to make their love more complete, such love had already veered off course. It was no longer the beautiful thing it had once been, and a parting of ways was inevitable. Though I didn't answer her question out loud, my silence was its own reply. Since that time, we never spoke of anything deep again, just the usual, everyday chatter. Over the past 3 years, thanks to her, I gradually emerged from the shadow that Song Qingyu left behind. Tonight was no different. After seeing off the last customer, I lay down on my bed, pulled out my phone, and opened WeChat. She always sent me a message around this time. But tonight, even after waiting more than an hour, nothing came. The next few days were the same. No messages. I started to worry without even knowing why. Could something have happened to her? I couldn't hold back anymore and sent her a message. Are you there? This was the first time since Song Qingyu's betrayal that I'd taken the initiative to message another woman. I waited half an hour. Just as I was about to go to sleep, she finally replied, with a message that completely threw me off balance. Our daughter just turned 4 this year. She's been crying to see her dad every day lately. Can you help me? Just stay with her for a few days. I froze. If she were truly my child, I'd be more than willing to stay with her every single day. The problem was she wasn't. Spending a few days with her wasn't the issue. What troubled me was, in what capacity? She sent another message, this time sounding almost like a plea. Please, just make her wish come true. Just this once. With a sigh, my resolve crumbled. I gave in. The next day, as soon as I opened the door, I saw a little girl standing outside. Next to her was a woman in white, probably in her 30s. They looked at me. I looked back. I figured the woman in white must be the one I've been talking to, longing like sickness. Just as I was about to greet them, she introduced herself. Hello, Mr. Song. I'm Xiang Xiao, the personal nanny of Song Sitong. She gently nudged the little girl forward and said, Chen Sitong, this is your dad. Chen Sitong. Dad. My mind couldn't catch up. How had I suddenly become this little girl's father? As far as I remembered, I'd only agreed to accompany her for a few days. I never signed up to be her stand-in dad, but it was too late. Hearing that, the little girl's face lit up and she ran toward me. Before I could react, she had already wrapped her arms around my leg. Daddy, I finally found you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I crouched down, smiled, and picked her up. I'm not your daddy. You can call me uncle. You are my daddy. Mommy has your photo. I look at it every single day. I froze. Chen Sitong. Her mom had my photo. How is that possible? Suddenly, an image flashed through my mind. Song Qingyu. My whole body shuddered. I looked closely at Chen Sitong. Her eyes, her nose, her mouth. They were exactly like how Song Qingyu looked when she was little. In that moment, I understood. Longing like sickness, the woman who had been messaging me for 3 years was Song Qingyu. Only she knew my weakness, my love for children. But there was something I still didn't get. I had faked my own death. My old identity was erased. How'd she found me? How'd she track me here? Instinctively, I wanted to put Chen Sitong down. After all, she was the daughter of Song Qingyu and that man. No matter how much I liked kids, I had to draw the line. But Chen Sitong clung tightly to my clothes. Daddy, I miss you so much. Please don't leave me. Her childish voice had some kind of magic. I froze, hands still around her. But the truth was, I wasn't her father. That man was. I gave her a bitter smile and gently stroked her head. Do you have your mom's number? I do, she said, holding up her smartwatch and dialing. The call connected. Song Qingyu's voice came through. Tong Tong, did you find your daddy? I did. Daddy's holding me right now. She even gave me a kiss on the cheek. Mommy, when are you coming? There was a moment of silence on the other end. Tong Tong, when I come. You'll have to ask your daddy about that. Chen Sitong looked up at me. Daddy, can mommy come? Song Qingyu really played it well. She knew I wouldn't turn this into a scene in front of child. Looking at Sitong's innocent, hopeful face, I gave a helpless nod. Yay! Sitong cheered, twirling in excitement. Mommy, Daddy said you can come. Is that true? Really? Daddy nodded. Sitong beamed with joy. I smiled faintly and gently pinched her cheek. Then, from across the street, I saw her, Song Qingyu, hiding behind a wall. I sighed quietly and set Sitong down. Tong Tong, can you wait inside for a bit? I'm going to get your mommy. Okay. She was practically jumping with happiness. Xiang Xiao came over, took her hand, and said to me with a smile, Don't worry, Mr. Song. I'll watch over Tong Tong. I nodded politely and turned across the street. Since I couldn't run anymore, I might as well face it. I figured it was time she and I had a real talk. Getting back together was out of the question. Being just friends, that was my limit. After all, we once truly loved each other. Not making it to the end was just one of life's regrets. But it didn't mean we had to become complete strangers. The light turned green, and I stepped onto the crosswalk. Song Siyu was a mess of tears, her hand clamped tightly over her mouth, desperately trying to stifle her sobs. No one knew she'd gone as far as offering $1 billion bounty just to find me. But now that she had, she didn't dare to actually meet me. She was terrified, terrified that the pain she'd caused me would drive me to despair, to truly consider ending my own life. But only being able to watch me from across the street, never daring to approach, was a torment she could no longer bear. Plus, their daughter, Song Sitong, was growing older, clamoring every day to see her father. At first, showing her my photo had been enough, but gradually it lost its effect. Desperate, she had decided to take a chance. The outcome had been better than she'd dared to hope. She figured that my not immediately lashing out was a good start. Whether we could ever be like we were before, she no longer cared. As long as I returned to her, she would do anything to mend the rifts of the past. Now, see me walk towards her. A tidal wave of longing and suppressed grievances crashed over her. She could no longer control her emotions and sprinted desperately towards me. Suddenly, the shriek of tires, a car braking hard, followed by a sickening thud. Song Siu had just darted onto the crosswalk when a speeding car slammed into her, sending her flying 4 or 5 meters. I whipped my head towards the sound. Song Siu lay in a pool of her own blood, motionless. My face drained of color, horror and fear instantly coursing through me. I sprinted to her side in a few long strides, my trembling hands lifting her from the spreading crimson. Blood gushed from her mouth and nose, and she was drifting in and out of consciousness. I'm so sorry, so sorry. I didn't see her. She just ran into the road. The driver stammered, scrambling out of his car. Cradling her blood-soaked body, I roared at the driver. What the fuck are you standing there for? Open the goddamn door. Get her to a hospital. The driver snapped out of it and rushed to open the car door. I carefully maneuvered her inside. On the way to the hospital, she regained consciousness. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something. But as soon as she did, a torrent of blood welled up. I knew what she wanted to say. Choking on sobs, I pressed my hand to her mouth, desperately trying to push the torrent of blood back in. But it was no use. The more I pressed, the more it flowed. Fear finally broke me. Tears streaming down my face, I choked out, "Don't talk. I forgive you. Just listen to me. You're going to be okay." Tears welled in the corners of her eyes, tracing paths down her cheeks. I couldn't tell if they were tears of relief, of reunion, or of remorse. The emergency room. I trembled uncontrollably, my eyes glued to the door. Meanwhile, Song Sitong arrived, Xiang Qiu by her side. I had a half-coax, half-trick Song Sitong into going home. I'd already resolved myself. As long as she was all right, nothing else mattered. I just considered it a karmic debt from a past life, one I was now repaying. 5 hours later, the ER door finally creaked open. A doctor stepped out. I scrambled to my feet, eyes locking onto him. He simply shook his head. "I'm sorry," he said. "We did everything we could." My strength left me, and I crumpled to the floor, like a soulless husk. I could only mutter, "How could this happen? How could this be?" I surged to my feet and burst into the room, clutching her lifeless body as I broke down, wailing. But no matter how I cried, my heart tearing itself apart, she offered no response. The cruel reality was unavoidable. She was gone. Though her affair had shattered me, she was the only family I had in this world. This wasn't the end I'd ever wanted. Perhaps it was a unique bond between mother and child. Song Sitong seemed to sense she'd never see her mother again. She cried and kicked up such a fuss that Xiang Qiu had no choice but to bring her back to the hospital, where they ran right into me. "I'm sorry, mister." Xiang Qiu said. Tong Tong was adamant about seeing her mom. At the same time, Song Sitong, still in Xiang Qiu's arms, was sobbing and screaming at me. "I don't want daddy. I want mommy. Give mommy back to me." My heart felt like it was bleeding. I felt like a wretched sinner. It was me. I was responsible for Song Qingyu's death. I had made little Song Sitong lose her mother at such a tender age. Tears stinging my eyes, I took Song Sitong from Xiang Qiu's arms. In that moment, I also took on Song Qingyu's responsibility, to raise her. Song Qingyu had no other family in this world, only me. Now that she was gone, the duty of raising Song Sitong was mine to bear, inescapable. Faced with Song Sitong's desperate cries, I had to resort to a cruel lie. "Mommy's just sleeping. You could go see her, but you mustn't wake her up." Song Sitong was obedient, so obedient it broke my heart. She quietly went to Song Qingyu's bedside, lay down silently on the bed, and before long, drifted off to sleep. Heartbroken, after managing Song Qingyu's funeral, I took Shin Sitong back to Kyoto, back to the home I hadn't seen in so long. The wedding photo by our bedside, Song Ching-yu had somehow restored it. So too were the household register and marriage certificate in the safe. Besides these, there was a will and a diary she had written after I left her. The will stipulated the voluntary transfer of her shares in the Song Group, naming me as the beneficiary. I didn't want the Song Group shares. I wanted to follow her in death. But she had left me Chun Sit-ong, and that alone stopped me from taking my own life. I reverted to my original name and took over the Song Group. Then, I set about destroying the agency that had helped me fake my death. Song Ching-yu's diary made it crystal clear. The owner of that company had betrayed me. If it hadn't been for him, Song Ching-yu would never have found me. And if she hadn't found me, she wouldn't have died. So, I considered him one of the main culprits, and he had to pay the price. As for Fu Yunshun, the man Song Ching-yu had an affair with, I already knew his fate from her diary. I also finally understood why she cheated. It was simply because Fu Yunshun, just like me, possessed the rare panda blood type. After dealing with the owner of that agency, I poured all my energy into Chun Sit-ong. There was nothing I could do. Song Sit-ong often woke up crying for her mother, but her mother was gone. Now, she only had me. I had to be there for her as she grew up. Only after she could take over the Song Group could I leave in peace and reunite with Song Ching-yu. At some point, Chun Sit-ong stopped asking for her mother when she woke up. In the blink of an eye, 20 years passed. Song Sit-ong had grown into a beautiful young woman, just like her mother. Meanwhile, I had entered my twilight years. Chun Sit-ong was exceptionally capable. If anything, she surpassed her mother. I thought it was time for me to leave. The second year after Chun Sit-ong successfully took over the Song Group, holding the wedding photo of Song Ching-yu and me on our wedding anniversary, I swallowed the poison I had prepared long ago. Years of longing had already taken their toll, making me sick with grief. It was time to shed this weary body, time to go to her. But I didn't die after taking the poison. The household staff found me and rushed me to the hospital. My life was saved for the moment, but the consequences were severe. I was completely dependent on an oxygen tube to breathe. Song Sit-ong rushed to the hospital upon hearing the news. I wanted to use what little breath I had left to speak with her. After all, once I was gone, she would be all alone in the world. Little did I know, she hadn't come to see me. She was there to remove my oxygen tube. It turned out, she had resented me ever since the day Song Ching-yu died, hating me for causing her mother's death. A profound desolation washed over me. Why was my fate so cruel? The woman I loved most had cost me half my life, and now the daughter I had raised was taking the other half, ripping out my oxygen tube and sending me to a resentful death. If there's a next life, I pray I never cross paths with Song Ching-yu again. The taste of it all, it's far too bitter.